So you could sit back, relax, reminisce about how you was this and did that, but it's less about what you did, more about who you is and how you impacting these kids. How you impacting these kids? Get stepping. Get stepping. Get stepping, cause it's less about what you did, more about who you is and how you impacting these kids. More about who you is and how you impacting these kids. Yeah, that's the one right there. Until next time, as always, get stepping, get stepping, get stepping, get stepping. Anytime you're faced with challenging circumstances, whether it be a situation, a decision, or a relationship, anytime you're faced with challenging circumstances, you have three options. Unless you want to drive yourself crazy, those three options that you can choose from are to either accept the situation entirely, or change the situation, or lastly, remove yourself from that situation. This knowledge came in handy for me earlier this year. See, earlier this year, I was faced with a decision, and the decision came because my dad didn't give me anything for my birthday. And just to give you a bit of a backstory, see, my father, some of my favorite memories come from me being young and him, picking me up, and we go over to Newport on the levee, to the aquarium, to the game works, and watch a movie, grab some food, and we just have a great time. So I was blessed in that regard to have a father who took part in actively raising me and really set the standard high. So as I've grown up through my preteen and teenage years and early adult years, for the most part, my dad has always gotten me a birthday gift. However, for the past 2 years, for some reason at the time, unbeknown to me, he just slacked off in that regard from a fatherly perspective. So when he didn't give me anything for my birthday this year, I was really taken back, because I thought, given what happened the year prior, that this year that, he would really get me something for my birthday. So when that didn't happen, I had to actually bring up to him, I was faced with a decision. For one, should I bring it up? And I decided to bring it up, and ask him, why didn't he get me anything? So me having to bring that up to him, it took a lot of energy out of me, because I personally felt like, a parent should always look forward to getting their child something for their birthday, despite any outer circumstances. So when I asked him, why didn't he get me anything, his response was he financially wasn't in the position to get me something. So, I really had an option in that moment to accept what he was saying and, just kind of let it be, right? Accept it fully, change the situation in some way, or remove myself from the situation, meaning to, remove my dad from my life. And that wasn't something I wanted to do. So I decided to accept what he told me, his reasoning. And part of my acceptance of his reasoning was because I thought back to how he was raised, and I thought back to his reference point. So when I thought back to his childhood, he came from a single parent household. His mom, my grandmother, had 2 other kids. He was the youngest of the 3 kids in total. He was the youngest. And, they grew up in inner city, Winton Terrace, which is a, hood in the Cincinnati area. And they didn't get much for Christmas, barely got anything for Christmas, and also missed some birthdays. So let alone him being an adult, he never got anything for his birthday. So, I accepted that, and, we ended up having another incident a couple of months after where he, did something, a favor, if you will, for someone else, a adolescent, a child, teenager, just out of the goodness of his heart. And it made me kind of look at him differently, just because, you know, for the past couple of years, my father, he hasn't really just done anything for me just on a just because level. And I really couldn't understand how, you know, on top of him not getting me anything for my birthday, he, you know, goes out of his way for someone else, this other teenage, I won't, you know, he's not a kid, this other young adult, basically. So it really struck me, and that started a whole nother situation with me and my pops. So, you know, I got upset, and it reignited that whole situation. And I really, again, was faced with the decision of, do I want to just kind of stop having a relationship with my pops in a way, for us to be as close? Or like, what do I do? Like, why do I have to bring this up, you know? Because from that first date, when I brought this up to him, he didn't, you know, get me a birthday gift or anything like that from that first conversation. So why do I have to bring this up again? You would think that would come natural, right? So again, you know, I stopped talking to him for a couple of days. He called me, and, you know, my feelings came up out the blue, and I kind of just went in on him, and we stopped talking for a while. And I recently visited Cincinnati, so there in Cincinnati, again, I had a choice I had to make between the three choices, which is to either accept the situation, meaning us not talking, either that or remove myself from the situation or try to change the situation. So I voted to change the situation within myself. I went to go see my dad, and we had a real heart-to-heart conversation in person, and the result of that conversation, you know, really came for us becoming closer, because, you know, I got to express to him that I understood his point of view. I understood his reference point, his perspective. Growing up in a single parent household in the hood, you know, he said some of his times with getting Christmas gifts was the Salvation Army, and they just have a big thing of toys, and then, you know, he just grabbed whatever toys he get on Christmas. And, you know, my mama, the best gift that she can give her children was cooking them a nice meal on Christmas. So, you know, I really expressed that I understood that perspective to him, but I also expressed how I still look forward to receiving birthday gifts and also being cared for in some ways. Thankfully, he understood where I was coming from and admitted that he did need to put more conscious effort towards finding out how to be a parent at this stage of life. But it was what he expressed next that really resonated with me. However, before we get into it, you know, we got to get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So today we are at Usury Mountain Summit right here in the middle. As you can see, it's in Mesa, Arizona. It's a moderate hike. It takes 1.9 miles in an estimated 1 hour 20 minutes. If you're confused at what you're looking at, the stats are provided by All Trails. They don't sponsor my videos, but if you like them to sponsor my videos, me too. But anyway, Usury Mountain Summit. Usury Mountain South Summit is where we're at. Let's go ahead and click in. All right, so when we click in, as you can see, the elevation gain here is 836 feet. So yeah, you know, it's a little elevation gain for this one. So I showed you it takes 1 hour and 20 minutes. For me, without the camera equipment and such, it'll probably take me about, well, it does take me like 35 minutes. With the camera and all of that, it took me like 45 minutes. I had ran into some technical difficulties as well, and I tried to get a little fancy with the shooting, try to do some different camera angles, but you'll see that. But it's an out and back, 1.9, 836 feet elevation. Let's go ahead and view the full map. So you start here, and this one, as soon as you start, you know, it's little for like a second, right? So you're just chilling for a little second. You see the grade is at 13%, and then like out of nowhere, you literally just go up, and it doesn't stop, right? So elevation, as you can see, you're already pretty high at 2,052, 2,057. So you get up there, right? So then the grade, as you can see, 41%, and as you just keep going up, right? You see them moving at the bottom of the screen. And as you keep going up, you're at 0.5 miles. You're already at 2,294 feet. Guys, this one is no joke for real because it's up and it's long. It's long, right? So when you get to the top, you're at 2,779 feet. Now, I'm gonna keep it all the way on it with y'all. On this one, we make it to about right here. Again, I have a few technical right here. I have a few technical difficulties, and I had to make sure that I got back to the car before the battery ran out. So yeah, but you'll see. Enjoy this footage. But this is out and back. So as we go back down, we're going back down the same way we came up, and we go all the way back to here, and that is Usuri Mountain South Summit. Now let's go ahead and see what the people are talking about, right? It's all about the people. That's what it's really about, right? Now you see a little bit of weather and all that. Yesterday, Kevin just hiked it. What did he say? He said, hard to find the start of the trail, but as others said, follow along the south side of the chain link fence and a host of some other stuff. Yeah, Lisa Scott, she liked it, and Aaron liked it as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys 2 pro tips really fast. If you ever decide to do this trail, one thing you should know is that there's no parking at the actual trailhead. So you have to park a couple of streets down on the right. I don't really recall the street name, but it is in the comments here on All Trails. So maybe grab All Trails app and you'll be able to see it, you feel me? Another thing is that they are doing construction. So this trail was actually made in the neighborhood. So by the landowners, the people who, you know, own property, they actually made this trail. So that being said, it's really immersed in the community, and also they're building a house right by the trail. So I'm not sure if the trail will be open for how many years, because the house is being built right now and people currently have to walk along the gate. So people will be walking in their backyard. But we will see, you know, because this really is a beautiful trail and you guys want to enjoy these views. But again, if you like to figure out, you know, matter of fact, let's get back to it. All right. So one thing I want you guys to understand is that this episode was my 3rd to last episode to be complete with the entire season. So at the end of this episode, I had 2 more episodes left to film. I filmed this entire season over 2 weeks, only having 3 days for breaks. So I was exhausted mentally and physically by this episode. My body, I rolled my ankles several times. I literally did an episode a day with only 3 days of rest over those 2 weeks. And I had to film 2 episodes twice. So although my body and mind felt depleted internally from a spiritual perspective, I felt elated, all due to my chapter 5, perspective. Perspective, noun, a mental view or prospect, a visible scene, the interrelation in which a subject or its parts are mentally viewed, the capacity to view things in their true relations or relative importance. There are several different definitions for the word perspective, but the easiest way for me to describe perspective is with this saying I grew up hearing. It goes like, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. The first part is self-explanatory. We all know humans are prone to recall events inaccurately, so you should believe none of what you hear. This is where games like Telephone came from, and the reason you can show 5 strangers one event and all of them will say it happened in a different way. A deeper look. There was a movie that came out in the mid-2000s called Vantage Point. It was about how several witnesses with different points of view of an assassination attempt on the US president recalled the event. Despite the witness statements and even a handheld camera recording from one of the witnesses, the CIA had a very difficult time finding the guy because all of the stories were contradicting in some way, even the video footage. This is to say that every person believed the event happened in a different way from their point of view, where they were standing. This is why you should believe half of what you see. Much like the movie, we all have different points of view of life. These different points of view shape our belief system, and our belief system makes up a large part of our chosen perspective. So after my father expressed he had some room for improvement, what he said next really resonated with me. And what he said was he's proud of the man that I am. See, at my age, my dad was living in the hood. The inside of his house was always nice, but the surroundings were rough. Not to mention, he had a baby on top of him being a young man in the hood, trying to find his way. So when he looks at me, being 23 years old, out here living in Scottsdale, Arizona, making a good living for myself, he expressed that from his perspective, he just thought I was good. He didn't think that I was looking for him for anything, from a birthday gift to anything else. This really resonated with me because although my income has continuously increased, from my perspective, I still haven't hit the heights that I plan to reach. And me living out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, I'm able to see exactly where I plan to reach. See, as I drive around here in Scottsdale, I see Teslas, Model S, Model X. I see Lexus, I see Mercedes, I see Rolls Royces. Any luxury car name that you can think of, it's like normal to see out here in Scottsdale. From houses with mountain views, multi-million-dollar houses. All of these things are heights that I plan to reach. So from my perspective, I still have a journey to go from where success destinations that I like to reach along my journey, but through the lens of someone else, especially, my father, whom at my age, he wasn't in a position that I am in. So, outside looking in, it could seem like, I'm so far out, especially coming from a city like Cincinnati, where, if you're a six-figure earner, you can live a lot more, a lot more freely, I guess, or a lot more luxurious than, living in out west. Being a six-figure earner is different. But at the same time, that's what keeps the vision in front of me, being able to not be complacent off of earnings that I've had and being able to, keep putting the action forward to keep increasing my income year over year. So from my perspective, there's still a journey to travel. Though outside looking in, I can see how someone else would think that, it's already all peaches and gold. Though in order for me to get to those success destinations that I plan to reach, it takes investments. That's why a large portion of the income that I earn, it goes back into my business, which is my real estate business and also my brand. Though as I head into my third full year of full-time entrepreneurship, my income has steadily increased year over year. And one of the biggest perks that I've enjoyed with my increase of income is being able to provide life-altering memories for my loved ones and being able to also show up to the relationship with gifts or whatever it may be. So this brings me so much joy. And with me knowing that there's only more income to be in my future, more coming in larger quantities than I've ever seen before and probably can even imagine right now. But with me knowing that there's more money coming in lump sums, this leaves me to put more focus on keeping my relationships the same despite outer circumstances. So that's why it means so much to me when I still receive gifts from my parents, because I'm still their child and they're still my parents. And it brings me joy from receiving a gift. And it also brings me joy just knowing that they thought about me. Just the fact of being thoughtful, that's the main component, more than the price of the gift. The fact that my parents took time to pay attention to what I like, whether it's my hobbies or whatever my interests may be, and they did something for me. That means the world to me, more than the amount of money that I earn and however much they paid for whatever gift. It means the world for me to keep that dynamic the same. So although our reference points provide us with a perspective, ultimately we have the last decision on which perspective we choose to embody. Take my dad, for example. When he, didn't receive gifts growing up, his first thought with, seeing that I'm financially stable by myself, his first thought was, okay, I didn't get gifts growing up, so he doesn't need any gifts growing up. And that was his reference point. So that was his chosen perspective. But by him choosing a new perspective, what he's now doing is affecting generations to come, because he's able to look at his reference point and say, okay, this is how I was, raised, and the dynamic with my parents, I want to change that in whatever way. And by changing that, he now sets up a new reference point and a new perspective for myself when I have kids. And, for their reference point, seeing their granddad still giving their father gifts, right? Me seeing that my dad, is, and when I speak about gifts, I mean bare minimum a birthday gift, right? So that being said, me receiving a birthday gift at 50 years old from my dad, that's a thought that makes me smile. And that also sets a new standard for, my children, for, what I provide for them. But by getting me out of the Cincinnati Public School District in middle school and changing my environment, he's definitely already impacted the generations to come in a positive way. Because living in Mason, a suburb on the outskirts of Cincinnati, exposed me to a new environment that helped me see the world bigger. So that's one way, as far as how a reference point, if you actually look at it and choose the perspective, it can be advantageous to your overall success. But of course, I'd like to take you through a few more examples on how I've personally utilized my reference point throughout my life, and also how I've noticed reference points being used that's inspired me to continue to choose my perspective on life. I like to start off with my mom. Growing up, her story was very similar to my father's. They both grew up in the same hood. They both were the youngest of multiple children. My mom had 3 other siblings, though she got pregnant at age 16, and by the age of 22, she already had 2 kids by 2 different fathers. So, looking at that circumstance just right there, she could have been another, lost story, lost young woman in the hood on welfare. But, for her reference point of success was her aunt, my great aunt, my Melma sister, who decided to go to college to transcend where she comes from. She was the first in her family to do that. So my mom, looking at her, she knew that, her success destination to get out of the circumstances that she was in, living in the hood, single parent of 2 children, to get out of those circumstances, she had to go to school. And that's what she did. She went to school, worked a job, and she graduated to this day with her master's degree. It was a long journey for her, and me growing up, seeing her raise 2 kids and go to school and, go to work, for the most part, quite often by herself. So me, seeing her do this and seeing her see it all through to get a college degree, and, work for a bit in the field that she got her degree in, that was my destination of success, right? Because that was my reference point, to at least make sure I go to school, go to college, get my college degree, my bachelor's, and, go and work. But for myself, growing up, I knew that I at least had to do that to be successful. Though me growing up, I also had cousins who were my other reference point, right? So I had cousins and other close family members, some cousins that went to college. They had football scholarships. Others had, basketball scholarships. Others just went to college just to go to college. But the common trend with all of them seemed to be that they would go to college and then they would come back to Cincinnati and just live a normal life. So some of them actually got their degree, but some of them did not finish school. Instead, they literally, came back home to Cincinnati. Some of them got pregnant. Some of them had kids. Some of them just didn't get their degree and just, worked whatever job that they can work. Me seeing that made me realize that college necessarily was not the end success destination. I realized that, college in and of itself can still have you living a normal life. And me being 10 years old, 11 years old, or 9 years old, I've always vowed to myself that I would not live a normal life. So although my mother, her life was fulfilling, it transcended because her college degree got her out of a situation, where she was living in really harsh surroundings and harsh circumstances, but being able to get a degree and get a better job, it worked for her. Me, on the other hand, me seeing, it worked for my mom, and then me seeing my cousins who were older than me, but, not by a lifetime, not by 15 plus years, more like, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years at most. So me seeing how college did not work out for them, or even the ones that got their degree and they still were not fulfilled in their real life, me seeing that helped me realize that college was not the way. So I chose entrepreneurship, and there's a whole story within that, but the basis of it is I chose entrepreneurship. And for me, it's fulfilling. It's my life purpose, my journey of success. Me embracing this journey of success has been very fulfilling, and I've been, rewarded in numerous ways, inside and out, internally and on the outer reality. But my biggest test and the biggest reference point above all the ones that I just named, to be quite truthful with you, came after my breakup. I was in a slump, literally on the couch, and I spoke briefly about this earlier this season, but being an entrepreneur and going through a breakup and working in sales, people feel your energy. My energy was whack. My sales went down. My deals went down. All of these things, and I didn't really know, what to do. I was in a whirlwind. I was smoking a lot of weed. I was, even for a brief second, drinking. And I'm not even a big drinker. So me going through all of this, I was in a whirlwind. It was like a spiral down until I remembered, and it just like hit me one day out of the blue. I remembered, driving in a car, being in the backseat, my mom driving, and I remember her telling me about my cousin when I was probably about 11, 12, somewhere in there. My cousin, who was an entrepreneur, they moved out west, and they moved out west with their girlfriend at the time. They had a successful company, and then they broke up. They went their separate ways. My cousin stayed out in out west, and continued the business to the best of their ability. However, what eventually ended up happening is they got sucked into a down spiral, to put it lightly, over consumption of alcohol, drugs, that led them to, their business went down, their sales went down, and that led them to go back to Cincinnati, Ohio, where we're from. And their dream, so to speak, at least when it came to out west, was all done, all based off of a breakup. A breakup did them in. And I couldn't understand that. I remember being that age, and my thought process going like, man, I get that opportunity, I never squander it. And me, being 22, going through a very eerily circumstances, like very eerily similar circumstances, I mean, it gives me goosebumps talking about it, but it literally gave me goosebumps the day I recognized it. I realized that I had vowed to myself in that moment that I would never let something like that happen to me. It literally brought me back to that day. And I realized, looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's what I'm doing. Based off of a breakup, be it whoever responsibility it was, you know, I had to take a large part of the responsibility. Still didn't make it easy when it ended. All of that being said, my purpose, my vision, my legacy, my generational wealth, that was completely separate than my feelings. And I learned it that day. That day, I learned that, okay, I need to separate these two things, because I made a decision, a vow to myself, a promise, a commitment that I wouldn't let anything come in the way of my vision. So me being able to draw back that reference point gave me the perspective that this wasn't a terrible thing that I was going through. It was something that I was going through, yes. And the only way for me to get through it was to literally go through it. But me going through it did not mean that my life, my vision, my purpose, all of that had to go down the drain just because of these feelings that are happening right now. Guys, God knows, the higher power, the higher being, they know why I am here today, and they gave me the strength to get out of that moment. Also, a large portion of, you know, me being able to be and share this moment with you had to do with me recognizing that there was a decision. I can choose my perspective in this moment. Although things seem messed up, the dog is gone. You know, I'm out here by myself. I got this business to operate. My feelings are messed up. I don't know what to do. Who am I? I've been in a relationship for, 4+ years. Who am I right now? Didn't know anything. But all I knew is that I had love for my legacy, and nothing or no one or no circumstance will come in between that. So I stopped smoking weed. I went on a 30-day break from smoking weed. And the main reason I did that is because I knew I was smoking from a hurt place, trying to mask hurt feelings versus me, being in, catching a good vibe and just, feeling good while doing it. So I stopped that, and I made a committed decision to be great. And the rest is really history. You can go, look at all those videos I posted and just know that, my real life from the standpoint of real estate was affected in a positive way as a result of me making that conscious decision to be great and choose my perspective on life. But look, out of this entire episode, I want you guys to take away 3 things, right? And these 3 things, I really want you guys to practice this in your own life. So the first thing, really, truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, is to practice empathy. Practice empathy, guys. So often it's really easy for us to get caught up in our perspective on life and believe that that is the only truth, right? That's the only truth. But the reason there's wars in the world is because there's multiple truths in the world, right? People are willing to die for what they believe in. So that being said, you have to respect their perspective, and also you have to make that decision to either respect that, right? So either accept it completely, or change the situation, or remove yourself from the situation. But this all goes into practicing empathy. And the reason why this is all under one roof is because when you practice empathy, it allows you to slow your reaction and also to calm your inner self down, to stop taking yourself so seriously. Realize that come from a place of understanding versus a place of knowing. We learn every day, so what do we actually know? All right, number 2, your reference point is the doorway to changing the trajectory of your generations to come. By looking at your reference points and deciding to be better than what you were given, or, whatever you experienced, deciding to be better than what you experienced will change the trajectory for your children. So for myself, everything that I'm doing in my lifetime, everything that I am accomplished, I have accomplished, and I will accomplish in this lifetime, it's all from me to, have offspring, have children, and for them to just do it way bigger than I can even imagine, something that I can't even see, right? Something I can't even fathom how big that they're going to do it, but I want them to do it way bigger than me. But the reason that they'll be able to take it to new levels that I never took it is because of their starting point, their reference point. They have a different reference point of success than I had in my lifetime. So they'll be able to take it far beyond heights that I can even imagine to reach, because I'm starting off at a different place than they started off. But ultimately, just looking back and seeing what we experienced, feeling it, and deciding to provide better experiences, that changes the trajectory. And it's not to say that your experiences could have been awful, but it's to say that you are now just taking it up just one more step, right? And the last thing I want you guys to take away from this, perhaps the biggest thing, is that by changing your perspective, you can change your reality. In other words, you can start living the life of your dreams right now in this present moment, despite any outer circumstances that you are going through, whether they be good or bad. You can internally decide to live the life of your dreams right now by changing your perspective of the present moment. Take, for example, when I explained to you in this episode, my body was completely exhausted. Like, I was in so much pain through the last few episodes, but internally, I felt elated because in myself, I felt like I was living the life of my dreams. Even in this present moment, as I'm recording this, the world still doesn't know anything about this project that I'm so grateful to share with you all. The world doesn't know anything about it. But in this present moment, I'm living the life of my dreams. That has nothing to do with receiving, I know it's great, right? So it has nothing to do with people telling me how great it is. It has nothing to do with anything other than what I feel internally to be my perspective of the life of my dreams. And me being able to, get out of my body, even out of my mind, thinking about how much in pain I was able to just embrace the moment, the fact that I was doing something, that I am doing something that I thought about, that literally I just thought about. and the universe met me halfway and, made it happen. So that in and of itself, despite the outer circumstances that I was going through, helped me realize that I was living the life of my dreams. And this dates back to even the breakup. When I was going through everything I was going through, I realized that, wait a minute, this is my moment. Despite outer circumstances, I'm still living the life of my dreams. I'm able to, provide for myself and also feed my vision, feed my dreams. That way, one day, not too soon from now, it'll give it all back to me in lump sums. So by changing the perspective on any outer circumstances that I've gone through that, may not be favorable when you look at it just on the outside lens, by changing my perspective on all of it, I've been able to embrace it. I've been able to embrace the journey. The same with the hike, the same with the exercise, right? Guys, I don't know how you think it feels. Like, I like hiking, don't get me wrong, but like, my body be sore, and to continue hiking and to not stop, which is something I pride myself on. And, you can also see I don't have water on these hikes. So to continue hiking, to not stop, if you just want to get caught up into the exercise aspect of how your body's feeling, you can probably look at it like, why even choose to do this, right? Why do you want to do this? But for me, it's fun. I changed my perspective on it, right? For me, it's fun. Literally, like, for the past year, my fun has been hiking, working out, and smoking weed from time to time as well. More than time to time. But that's been my fun from the standpoint outside of my grind, outside of my marathon, outside of, what I do on a daily day, from real estate to building my brand. in this present moment, I haven't released a video in quite some time, yet I still feel successful because I know that I'm working towards my accomplishments, my journey of success. I'm stepping every day. Every single day I'm on this journey, I'm stepping in the direction that I know I should be headed in. So that leads to my success, despite at this present moment, there's no accolades for brand success when it comes to all the hours and all the effort that I've put into it. I already know that it's successful because I feel successful. And that's what I really want you to take away from this. Above all those three things I told you, you decide what you feel. You decide what success is. You decide how you feel successful. Your perspective changes your reality. So that means you can live the life of your dreams today. All you gotta do is get to stepping. Hard is in every step, of course. Get the stepping. Of course. Out here in that Tesla Model S. Of course. Chilling with me and my triangle offense. It gets breezy. Of course. Another episode down. Another episode in the books. Long time coming. Since 2020, a whole year. Would you believe that's what it took? When I drop, feel like it's summer, but it's gonna be winter. Have a whole bunch of people saying, damn, do you remember? Do you remember he, yes, S2, that's me. Had a dream, made that come true, that's me. Almost. Boy, I swear I make them history. The Intangibles out now and go get it. The Intangibles out now and go get it. Sure to change your life for sure. And wait till you get this. Until next time, as always, you know what to do.